Hey guys, what's going on? Laying back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Drifting Home. Drifting Home is a Japanese anime film that tells the story of Kosuke and Natsume, a pair of kids and childhood friends who have grown apart due to the passing of Kosuke's grandfather, who Natsume was quite attached to. The pair unexpectedly meet while Kosuke tours his old apartment complex with a group of friends, after which a supernatural event occurs. The building becomes surrounded by a sea of water and is separated from the world the kids once knew. This results in the group banding together to survive their circumstances and eventually being forced to look within themselves in order to find a way back home. It's been a while since I've seen an anime film, so I've been looking forward to seeing this one, and it met pretty much all of my expectations. It's a standard coming-of-age tale at heart that's elevated by its sweeping visuals and rich themes. Out of the two leads, Kosuke is the more prominent one. He reels from a past event in which he said something hurtful to Natsume and didn't have the courage to own up to his mistake. This, combined with the passing of his grandfather, makes him become a shut-in of sorts, as he tries to run from his past to hide his pain. I didn't like Kosuke much at first due to his attitude, but I came to appreciate him as more details were revealed. He lacks the maturity and emotional capacity to deal with the kind of effect that his mistakes have had on him, so rather than confront his demons head-on, he chooses to hide from them, despite the pain following along with him. In my opinion, this is a believable reaction for any kid who experiences the kind of trauma that Kosuke has gone through. He ultimately proves sympathetic and even likable, as he slowly comes out of his shell, displays a dauntless level of courage to help his friends in their hour of need, and tries to right wrongs with Natsume. And on that note, Natsume was another great character as well. Unlike Kosuke, who spends much of his time running away from his past, Natsume spends most of her time fighting to preserve it and holding onto her memories, which prevents her from being able to grow and mature. It was heartbreaking to see how attached she was to her former home at the apartment, especially once her family history is explored, as well as how much she still cares about Kosuke in spite of his animosity toward her. She has a hard time moving on and accepting change, and this is a feeling that I also think many kids can relate to. Despite how downtrodden she can be at times though, she was much more positive in comparison to Kosuke. She takes more of an initiative to foster cooperation among the group members, and in general has a more optimistic and upbeat personality to keep their spirits up, which helped me become further invested to see her and everyone else come home. The pair's relationship is the main driving force behind this movie's story. I was pleasantly surprised with how Kosuke and Natsume were both different and yet oddly similar as characters. Both are unable to process things and properly move forward in their lives due to the death of Kosuke's grandfather Yasuji, but for reasons that are more distinct than just being a simple disagreement. It was interesting how the two came to a kind of crossroads at a certain point, with Kosuke gradually owning up to his mistakes, while Natsume loses her positivity and becomes depressed over the state of her former home as their journey comes closer to its end. Their childhood innocence either has or is slowly eroded by the reality of their lives. Kosuke and Natsume have lost things and will continue to lose them, but eventually come to realize that as long as they have each other, they can handle their losses and struggles together. And I loved seeing them grow and change as a result of this. These two aren't the only characters in the movie though. Their voyage is aided with the help of Taishi, Yuzuru, Juri, and Reina, as well as a mysterious figure known only as Noppo. All of them have unique personalities and contribute to the story in their own way. To give a few examples, Taishi is more hot-headed and tends to get himself in trouble, which does result in some amusing comic relief, while Noppo adds some lore behind the world that the kids have found themselves in. They don't have the same level of depth as the main characters, but they're still enjoyable. The only character I took issue with was Reina, who tended to cause a lot of drama within the group. I don't fully disagree with the idea of having a character like this, but in Reina's case she tended to blame Natsume over and over again for getting them into their predicament, which got old after a while. This being said, most of the characters do get the chance to come of age in the same vein as Kosuke and Natsume. They deal with things that range from physical attraction to others to handling their own individual grievances, and all of their transitions happened organically along with the protagonists, which I appreciated. A lot of the comedy comes from the character interactions too. The back and forth banter they share with each other was always fun to see, especially when they get fixated on their buildings supposedly being haunted. The lengths they go to try and find ghosts, only to end up being terrified and running away the first sign of them, was always hilarious. Thankfully, the movie features a lot more than just characters hashing things out and floating at sea. Numerous scenarios shake up the variety of scenes, such as the group searching for food, scoping out other buildings they find, and even just kicking back and having a swim. The scenes set in other buildings were some of my favorites in the whole movie, not just because they provide a nice change of pace, but they also provide the most action. The buildings gradually drift away from each other, which leaves limited time for the group members to find supplies and get out before they're separated. This results in intense escape sequences where characters have to cooperate with each other and often see some level of harm coming to them, which made me worry for their safety. The action does get repetitive toward the end with a constant swimming, but they're still fun while they last. Of course, one can't talk about an anime without mentioning the animation itself, and it is gorgeous in this movie. I liked how realistic the visuals were, featuring dilapidated buildings and blue skies that contrast with each other, and all the painted backgrounds and hand-drawn elements that came together to help bring the story to life were awesome. I also have to give credit to the equally awesome soundtrack, which features a sweeping orchestral score that emphasizes the scale of the adventure the kids undertake, as well as highlighting the more emotional moments of the story when they happen. Pretty much everything about the aesthetic presentation is on point. One part about the story that kind of bothered me though was the supernatural aspect about it. There's never any sort of explanation that's given to help the audience make sense of the world the kids are in and the weird things that happen in it. Nobo fills in a few blanks, but not enough to satisfy the mystery behind the story. The ending for this movie proceeds pretty much exactly as one might expect for something like this. Obviously I won't spoil it, and in fairness it still finishes on a somewhat emotionally satisfying note, but I was a bit disappointed with how predictable it ended up being. However, the movie's themes definitely make up for this. It examines the impact memories can have on people, in both good and bad ways. The movie uses buildings to invoke a sense of nostalgia upon the viewer, which helps connect to the character's struggles and stresses that even if the physical form fades away, the memory will always remain. It also explores the power of friendship and how it can withstand change around it even as it changes itself. The necessity of transitioning is necessary to overcome life's hardships, and the way the characters reflect this change was a rewarding experience. Overall, Drifting Home is a great anime film featuring an entertaining adventure and a heartwarming message to back it up. If you like the kinds of anime that have a journey involved in them and want to see one that's fairly light and breezy, I think you'd enjoy this one. Some problems exist here and there with its story, but it still succeeds in telling a tale about friendship in both comedic and dramatic fashion. The saying goes that it's not the destination, but the journey that matters most. And while that is mostly true in this movie's case, as a whole, it's still a blast to watch. What did you think about this movie? Did you enjoy the emotional weight behind its story, or did you find yourself wishing parts of it were less cliche? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Drifting Home. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part where next time I review the British dramedy I Used to Be Famous. Bye bye!